Hello, and welcome to Virtual Worship. Today is All Saints Sunday on the Christian calendar. It's a day that we remember, first of all, that the word saint refers to all of us. In the Bible, the word saint is never used to refer to the best or the most virtuous or the most faithful of Christians, as in Saint Mary or Saint Peter. The very idea that there is a group of super Christians who are called saints simply is not a biblical idea. So what is a saint, if not a super Christian? Well, simply put, a saint is someone who has been made holy or sanctified by the death and resurrection of Jesus. So you are a saint, I am a saint, and we are saints together. But All Saints Sunday is a day especially to remember those saints in our lives who are no longer with us physically, no longer physically present. They who have died, family, friends, and others that we've loved and who have loved us back. Later on in the video, you will have the opportunity to name out loud those whom you have loved and lost, those who you think of on this day, those in your heart and on your mind. We honor the gift of their lives to us, and we thank God for them. Certainly in these days of the virus, we include on the list of those we remember the nearly 230,000 people that have died in our country. Many of you have known someone who has died due to COVID, but even if we haven't, we still sense the tremendous loss of life that surrounds us all. How we need to hear the beautiful words of Jesus in the gospel lesson, the words of the Beatitudes, where he says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Within that blessing is peace, for not just those who grieve the death of one they've lost, but all that we're grieving these days, including the life that we used to know that has been drastically altered due to the pandemic. But even in that is hope, as the Beatitudes speak of the way that God cares for the poor in spirit and for those who know suffering. So may these next few moments for you be a time of comfort and strength, of encouragement and hope, and may you know the deep and beautiful peace of God who is with you. Welcome to Virtual Worship.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my life thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul, it is well with my soul, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
The gospel for today is found in Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you.
On this All Saints Sunday, we remember those of our loved ones whom we have loved and lost. But the link to remembering is often pain and sorrow. It is that passageway to the soul where we hold in a sacred place those that we've loved who are no longer physically with us. I want to suggest to you something, that you never have to say goodbye to a loved one, that you never have to let go of someone who has died. Yes, with every death of one close to us, the soul invites us into a process that we know is grieving. But the goal of grieving is far different than what we've often thought it's supposed to be. We believed it to be an ending to the relationship of that person that made our days full. And our job through grieving was somehow to finish with that relationship no longer present in our lives. But that's not true. And it's not our understanding as people of faith either. In remembering, relationships with loved ones are renewed. And the real work of grief is not to let go or to say goodbye of those that we have loved and lost, but rather to allow the soul to do its work, the work of transforming the relationship from one of physical presence to one of memory. Now, this may sound like an unlikely blessing from your pastor, but may the pain you feel over those you have loved and lost, may it never go away. May it always be there. But may you find ways to make friends with it so that when it comes, it brings you a greater fullness of life as the relationship you had with that person is renewed and reclaimed and experienced once again. The gospel lesson today says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." In another version, "Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh later." In our pain is blessing. Do not ignore it. Do not run from it. Instead, make friends with it. And so today is an encouragement to move through the healing process of grieving. If somewhere along the way you've aborted that process, today offers the courage to enter it once again. And if healing has already taken place, then today is a day to rejoice in the reminder that you carry within your heart the relationship of memory, and through that, those persons who have died still shape who you are. They still speak to you in the whispers of your heart, and they still appear to you in smells, songs, places, holidays that trigger in you their presence. I think most of us go to church with one hope, that the experience won't upset us too much. But let me tell you, you want to know when you've been to church? You want to know when you've really heard the gospel? You know that when within you something burns like fire. When you find that you can hardly sit still because either you're so excited you can't wait to start living out what you've experienced through the gospel, the good news of the gospel, or you want to run from the experience because the truth has so threatened you and you feel that if you run away fast enough, you can get away from this God whose love is passionate enough and relentless enough to track you down. I tell you that because I believe that in the gospel lesson, Jesus is inviting us to be present in and even embrace those things that are difficult to embrace. This Jesus who out of love for you and me was fixed to the wood of the cross. A cross he embraced because he knew that through the pain and the suffering that he would endure, something good and beautiful on the other side of it would emerge. Jesus is not afraid to stir up within you the discomfort that life can sometimes bring. And Jesus makes no apology for you to be called to the center of your pain, because he is hell-bent on healing. And the only way to heal is not to go around the pain, not to sidetrack the grief, nor sidestep devastating loss, but rather to enter into the very center of it and move through it to the other side. For there is no resurrection without crucifixion. There is no light without darkness, and there is no life without death. All Saints is not intended to be an emotional downer on the church's calendar. It is the very gift of hope. It invites a stark and uncomfortable look at the truth. We also remember words from the Psalms. Those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. And weeping may spend the night, but joy comes in the morning. Let me finish with one last but important invitation. Not all of our memories of those we've lost are good ones. Some of us have very troubling memories of mom or dad, or someone who tragically abused us, perhaps, or of ways that we were wounded by those who shaped us. The death of that person or those persons left us stuck in the past with no apparent way to resolve the pain. And it is a pain that continues to renew itself. One of my favorite authors is Frederick Buechner, who speaks of a remedy of grace for what can be part of our remembering: regrets, guilt, unspoken words, unfulfilled dreams, and open wounds. Buechner writes, God acts in our brief histories not as the puppeteer who sets the scene and then works the strings, but rather as the great director who, no matter what role fate casts us in, conveys to us somehow from the wings how we can play those roles in a way to enrich and hallow the whole vast drama, including our own small but crucial part in it. In fact, Buechner continues, God's chief purpose in giving us memory is to enable us to go back in time so that if we didn't play those roles right the first time around, we can still have another go at it. We cannot undo our old mistakes or their consequences any more than we can erase old wounds that we have both suffered and inflicted, but through the power that memory gives us of thinking and feeling and imagining our way back through time, we can at long last finally finish with the past in the sense of removing its power to hurt us and to stunt our growth as human beings. The sad things that happened long ago will always remain part of who we are, just as the glad and gracious things will too. But instead of being a burden of guilt, recrimination, and regret that make us constantly stumble as we go, even the saddest things can become, once we have made peace with them, a very source of wisdom and strength for the journey that still lies ahead. It is through memory that we are able to reclaim much of our lives that we have long since written off, by finding that in everything that has happened to us over the years, that God was offering us possibilities of new life and healing, which though we may have missed them at the time, we can still choose now and be brought to life by and healed by all these years later. Another way of saying it, perhaps, is that memory makes it possible for us to both bless the past, even those parts of it that we have always felt cursed by, and also be blessed by it. The gift of remembering is perhaps God's greatest gift. And whether that gift today brings you great joy as you renew the relationship with your loved one that has died, or it stirs up within you a longing for healing of wounds that have been bleeding for a long time, it is the way. Mourning, grieving is the way and the path to wholeness and a deeper experience of a life that is rich in meaning and full of beauty. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are those who weep and whose eyes are filled with tears, for they will laugh. Amen.